All during Advent, we've been considering Elaine Heath's contemplative stance. Contemplative stance. A contemplative stance, well, you know what contemplative means. In this case, stance or posture is not just a physical way of being, a way of sitting or a way of putting our hands together. A contemplative stance is how we approach the world. You know, like she took a stand for justice, or he took a stand that his daughter was trustworthy. That's the kind of stance we're talking about. And such a practice, which is a daily practice in the large things and the small things, grounds us, prepares us, strengthens us, focuses us, and launches us into God's vision. And we've looked at how these 4 steps have shown up in the characters in the Christmas story. First, we watched as Mary showed up just as she was, an ordinary person. Next, we got to see Joseph pay attention. Joseph had a plan. It was a good plan because he was a righteous man. But God had a different plan. Joseph paid attention, and the story took an unexpected turn. Last week, we watched how the wise men cooperated with God because they were wise. And today we're going to consider what it means to release the outcome, to have a stance toward the world where we show up, pay attention, cooperate with God. All of that is relatively self-evident, and you understand what that means just by reading it on the screen. Release the outcome is the most complicated and the most difficult of these concepts, not just to grasp, but to actually do. But what we find is that when we release the outcome, joy is also released. And like the shepherds, we walk away laughing in delight. Usually, you'll hear about how the shepherds were smelly, low-class, low-status folk, and that Luke uses them in his gospel to point out that Jesus is here for the least, the last, and the lost, the most marginalized, people on the edge, and that's right. Today, though, I'd like us to listen for something in addition to that. I want to listen for the shepherd's response. The shepherd's response, which is to pay attention, cooperate with God, and release the outcome. They come with confused expectations. We'll talk about that in a little minute. And then they leave with joy, letting the rest of the story play out however it will. In that region, there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. Then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. Keeping watch over their flocks by night, in other words, doing their thing, minding their own business, and what should happen? Something akin to a sky-filling explosion of fireworks to people who've never seen fireworks. No wonder they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid." Don't be afraid is obviously the first thing they teach you in angel training. Because every time a messenger or an angel from God shows up in the Bible anywhere, the first thing they say is, "Don't be afraid." Makes you wonder a little bit what they looked like, right? "For see, I'm bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. To you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who's the Messiah, the Lord. And this will be a sign for you. You'll find a child wrapped in bands of cloth and lying in a manger." This manger business is not incidental to the story. In what is rather understatedly referred to as a terrifying experience, the shepherds get a word of reassurance. Here's why this is a word of reassurance to them. They're about to become a witness to something obviously glorious. There's angels, there's something in the sky, there's the Lord, there's the Messiah, there's something big afoot. But wrapped in bands of cloth is what poor people did for their children. There were no specially made garments, no silks, no linens. He's laid in a manger which would have been in the house because the animals were in the house, instead of a specially made cradle. Not only are the people to whom Jesus is being born not wealthy, not royal, not powerful, they're not even what we would call middle class. So the shepherds get this sort of, don't know what to think, right? First, this enormous thing is happening over here, a big deal, but it's happening in a small way to someone like them, someone who is nothing, someone who is nobody, someone who is unimportant. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, more fireworks, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among those whom God favors." Good grief. What are the shepherds going to do with this? What are they supposed to think about this? What do you think they were saying to each other? What do they suppose they're being asked to do about this? If you've ever had either a nudge from God or, a wallop upside the head from God, either way, there's a sense that the thing you're being told is momentous. What are you going to do about that? Does this message from the angels mean they're now favored? This is a lottery win. They're going to go to a palace and see a king, and someone's going to give them some gold. Except there's that manger thing, so that might not be right. Incidentally, the prosperity gospel people are wrong. If you follow Jesus, you will not get rich. But that's another sermon for another day. So off they go, no idea and a million ideas about what is going to happen. And the only thing they can say to each other is, "I guess we should go see this thing. I guess we should go see this thing." And the only assurance they have about any of it is that they will be welcome, because these are people like them. But also a Messiah and a king, so there's that. So they might be a little confused. Like us, when something happens, when God draws near, either in that tiny way that we almost miss, or in a way that just kind of hits us right in the face, we can ask ourselves, what is this about, and how is this going to turn out? They didn't know. They only knew the next right thing to do. They didn't know how it was going to turn out. They only knew the next right thing to do, so they did that. Really, odds are about 50-50 for most of us when we get a sense that God is doing something with us, or something in us, or something for us, or something asking for something from us. We only have about a 50-50 chance that we'll get it right, that we're going to know what the right thing is to do. So we're right to hesitate, ponder, evaluate, consider, consult with one another as the shepherds do, and finally they say to each other, "Well, we can't figure this out. I guess we'll just go see about it." And then when we have shown up, paid attention, cooperated with God to the best of our understanding, we release the outcome. We do the next right thing and see what results. We don't try to force our vision on God's work. Now, some of you are having people to your house for Christmas, and some of you are going to somebody's house for Christmas. And I'd be willing to bet that at least half of you are not looking forward to that, at least not in every single way. That there's going to be, drunk Uncle Harold, or there's going to be the one person who just doesn't like anything, or that person who is competitive. You ever been around a competitive Christmas gift giver? Right? And nothing you give them is good enough. It reminds me of the child who was told to write a thank you note to her grandmother for the pincushion. She said, "Dear Grandma, thank you so much for the pincushion. It's what I always wanted, only not very much." We can't go into life or into a project or into whatever it is God is calling from us, whatever it is you think is God is calling you to do in the world, expecting other people to behave as you want them to behave. We recognize that things aren't always going to turn out the way we think they should, the way we hope they should, the way we wish they would. We can only do the part that is given to us. We can only show up, pay attention, and cooperate with God. And then we release the outcome. We do the next right thing. And then we see what results, and we give it to God. This contemplative stance isn't a magic penicillin. You can't walk into a difficult situation and say, oh, today I'm going to use this contemplative stance. This is something that grows in you, that you use daily, that you practice. It's like vitamins that way. It only works if you're consistent with it. A contemplative stance is a habitual practice. It isn't just a tool for managing a big thing in your life. It's a whole way of living. And this last part is the trickiest, but really important part. When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that's taken place, which the Lord has made known to us. So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in a manger. And then the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, as had been told them. And that's the last we hear of them. That's the last we hear of them. Maybe there were shepherds in the crowds where Jesus taught. Maybe there were shepherds on the hillside when Jesus made enough bread and fish for everyone to eat. Did they hear about his death and resurrection? We don't know. Mary shows up, and we see what happens. Joseph pays attention, changes the whole story. The wise men cooperate with God, and we know what they did after. They avoided Herod like he was the 5 freeway on rush hour. And the shepherds release. They release joy into the world. They release this story into the world, and we never hear from them again. This is counterintuitive, isn't it? You make a plan with a goal in mind, right? That's how things work. You can't set a route for a journey if you don't have a destination. But this part of life isn't like that. The spiritual life isn't like that. It doesn't fit very well into that kind of planning. This following Jesus thing, this joining in with God part is about the way we journey, not the destination. We develop this practice because it is the path of hope. We develop this practice because it is the path of hope, and hope is the grounding, the foundation, and the core of the Christian way of living. 1 Peter 3:15 says, always be ready to make your defense to anyone who demands from you an accounting for the hope that is within you. In every age and in every culture, and today is no exception, Christians are called upon to take stock of the reasons we continue to follow Jesus. As we've been learning about our contemplative stance, we are building the foundation for the hope for which there is no accounting. There is no accounting for the hope that is within us. I don't actually care for that. Make your defense when people demand. That always sounds to me like, get ready for an argument about your faith. And that's not usually fruitful. And I'm not sure accounting is really a word either, because I have to tell you, I can't always account for why I am hopeful, why I am faithful, why I still believe in love. We talk about love and joy and peace on earth in this season, but hope is the soil in which our faith takes root and bears fruit. Hope is the soil in which our faith takes root and bears fruit. And it is an impossible hope. It is a ridiculous hope. It is an audacious hope. But it is not a futile hope. It is not a futile hope. I have a longtime, much beloved friend who is an atheist. He's not a hostile atheist. He doesn't have arguments. He doesn't make fun of me or anybody around him. He's just come to believe that this whole idea of a higher power is a little fanciful. We talk about this from time to time, and sometimes when I'm alone with my thoughts, always a dangerous neighborhood to go in, especially at night, I wonder if maybe he's right. One day I was taking a long road trip and I thought a lot about those what ifs. What if there is no higher power? What if there is no force in the universe that is benevolent and gracious and is for us? What if this is all there is? What if good doesn't win in the end? What would be different for me? Well, I said to myself, and yes, I talked to myself in the car and other places, sometimes not very kindly, another topic. Nothing about my life would change. If you could prove to me all of these what ifs, nothing would change, not at its core. I would still want to work for good in the world, to work for justice and peace, to want to be a part of the lives of a community of people like you seeking to love and heal themselves and others and the world. For me, God is essential to that. I don't think we can do it by ourselves. I think if we had that much juice, there would be no racism, sexism, or injustice, because good people have been trying for a long time to fix the ills of the world, and if we could do it without God, we would have it done by now. So, for me, we need God, I need guidance, and I need strength, and that's where my hope comes from. On my own, even with your help, I cannot sustain the hope that makes my life worthwhile. For that, I need God in all the odd, peculiar, small, large, unusual, unexpected, conventional, and regular ways that God comes to me. And I need a practice to make sure I show up for that, and I pay attention to that, and I cooperate with God over that, and then I let go. And I stop trying to make everybody do what I want them to do. I've tried that. It doesn't work. Ask my adult children. The Christian life is about hope. I can see how my friend doesn't need God for that, but I do. I need something bigger than me, more enduring, more consistently merciful and gracious, wiser, more hopeful, more promising than me, or you and me together, or all of us. So this passage for Peter comes alive for me in Advent, because it's not about the demanding and the defending, it's about the hoping. The against all hope hoping, the no accounting for it hoping. Hope is the word here, hope. Hope is why we can show up. Hope is why we pay attention. Hope gives us the desire and the ability to cooperate with God, and hope is what lets us release the outcome of our wishes and our prayers to a God of hope. Hope is trusting that when we do our part, God will do God's part, though we may know nothing about it. To risk something big for something good, which is what Christians are called to do, requires us to believe in something greater than ourselves. It asks us to trust that our hope for the well-being of people we love, the outcome of our plans and efforts to heal the world, the safety of the universe, is held in the loving hands of something greater than we are. So like the shepherds, we return to our own homes with no control over what happens next or what other people are going to do. Now that we've shown up, paid attention, cooperated with God, we release the outcome. And when we do, hope fills us, hope fills the world, hope fills the skies. I want to invite you to share now with me in our body prayer. I have some handouts. Some of you may have already gotten one. There's a few over there. There's a few back there. If you want, you can take one. If you are online, let us know. We'll send you a copy by email. This is a way of physically praying, and this is the last time we'll do this. I'm going to invite you to do this, and I'm going to lead you through it twice. So if you would start by closing your eyes, set your feet firmly on the floor, sit comfortably in your seat. Don't perch at the edge, don't slouch, just sit comfortably. Shoulders back, take a breath, a couple of breaths. And with your eyes closed, silently repeat, "Here I am. Here am I. I am here." And then open your eyes. Clear, watching. Turn your head from side to side, see what you see. Look up, look down, look way up, look way down. If you catch someone's eye, smile, wave. Notice something you hadn't seen before. Notice something you hadn't noticed before, and silently repeat, "Show me what I'm missing." With your elbows out, link your hands in front of you. You can do it this way, or you can do it this way. This is a symbol of God's invitation to us, not just to participate with God, but to be bound to God's intention. Repeat silently in your mind, "Bind me to your way." And now this last one. Simply put your hands out in front of you, palms up, in a position of giving away your expectations, letting go of expectations. Notice when you have expectations, what will come next or how people should act. And then just hold in a moment of releasing back to God what is only God's. And then silently repeat, "Walk with me wherever this path takes me. Walk with me wherever this path takes me." And take a breath. I'm going to invite you to repeat this with no language in your mind. No language. I'll use language to tell you what to do, but there'll be no repeating, no words in your prayer. Just pray with your body. Close your eyes. Take a breath. Open your eyes. Look around. Notice. Bind your hands together. Open your palms. And take a breath. Let's let the choir bring us into the joy of this moment.